Today I'm excited. I'm going to show you how to build a fire. I'm here to show you how to build a fire, and this is what you're going to need. Okay. So for one, you're going to see different sized pieces of wood here. You've got some bigger pieces, some medium pieces, and then you've got some smaller pieces. Now, I would not recommend starting a fire with any kind of bark or wet wood. You can burn that stuff later, but not for the beginning of it. So I like to use newspaper, but even just some small kindling will work as well. But we have all these newspapers that come in every day. So I'm going to put some right in the center there. You want to make sure you separate it so that it'll actually burn, and then ball it up, but not too tight so it'll go through. So you put it in like this. I like to take one bigger piece, like this will do, and kind of put it at the end so that everything has something to lean against. So there's some air around each piece. And then you're going to take some medium to small pieces like this, break them off, and start adding the pieces to the top. And there's a couple ways to do it. One is they call it a log cabin style. That's where you basically have pieces like this, and then they go on top of it like this, and you keep going up with your smaller pieces in the middle, and that burns really nice. I'm going to do what they call teepee style, which is where everything kind of piles up to top here. And I'm going to put my dry, smaller pieces on the bottom. So it goes smaller to bigger. You're going to start off with the paper and get that burning. And then you're going to burn the next size up, which is the kindling. And then after the kindling are going to be the medium-sized pieces. So this is the kindling. And then these are the medium-sized pieces, followed by the big logs or the big pieces. And so I'm going to add some, and you do not want to cut off the airflow. You want to make sure that there's air that's allowed to flow through this entire piece here. You can use different things to chop down the wood, like here is an axe, a splitting axe, and then here is a hatchet. And all you have to do to make those smaller pieces is just to take the hatchet, kind of place it right here along the grain of the wood, and don't get your hand, but kind of chop off a couple pieces like I just did right there. So that's how you're going to do it. And without further ado, I'm going to light it. And as I light it, I'm going to keep adding pieces to it, but not wanting to smother it. So you need some sort of a lighting device. You can use something like a lighter or some matches and kind of light it on the side. Now, yeah, you can light a fire with just using rubbing sticks together. That's not what we're going to work on today. That would be a different video. Or a fire starter, or batteries, or glasses, or water in a bag. Something cool like that. But for right now, we're just going to use this. What's cool about these lighters is if you just hold them down and you don't actually start them, you can just, they're already letting out some butane, so you can just grab it like that. Now, a couple important things. Make sure that your flue is open so that you're able to have the air travel up through the chimney. You don't want that to be closed and go back into your house. I have a couple medium pieces ready to be added as I need them. And now the fire is starting to seep up through the bottom here. Some of my tools that my dad bought for me was, this is called a bellow. This allows you to blow air on a specific part of the fire. We'll use that in just a second. And then you have just a dustpan, a broom, a poker, and a grabber. These are really great tools to have for your fireplace. I got the cast iron version just because I wanted them to be heavy duty. And then my mom bought me this cool thing over here. This is actually an olive basket. But inside this olive basket, I keep newspaper, and that's how I bring the wood up from the wood pile. So it looks nice, I think, just having it here by the fire. And also is super handy. So now that the fire is going a little bit, I'm gonna take the bellow and I'm gonna put it right under here where the coals are starting from the newspaper. And I'm just gonna start carefully blowing in one direct spot. I don't want my bellow to be all over the place. But I'm gonna get that paper going. And one of the mistakes I might have made that it's not going immediately is just that I might have compacted it just a little too much. So let's get this going a bit. Now you can see the fire starting to push through that dense amount of newspaper there. I only use 2 pieces of newspaper. Sometimes I do need to use more, sometimes less. Depends on how good my kindling is for that particular fire. So the bellow got it going a bit, and I don't want to touch it too much. I want to let the fire really start to take on its own. Sometimes it's good to touch it and to adjust it, and sometimes it's just kind of good to let it all kind of gather together and let that wood start to catch on its own. So the more smoke you see coming out of it, then that means there's either not enough air getting through or the wood is too wet. In this case, it's probably a little bit of both. I still think it'll catch and start a fire, but it could have been a little bit better. Also, you want wood that's been aged for at least a year, which means that if it was a living tree and you cut it down, you're not going to want to use it right away in a fire. You're going to want it to age about a year. Otherwise, it's just going to be so darn smoky. And so we'll just get this going a bit. Now I see so much smoke coming through that I think I might have packed it a little bit too tight. So one of the things I can do is just open it up a little bit, let it breathe a little bit more. Now that I moved the sticks out of the way, I'm going to try this again and see if I can't get that fire to start pushing through the newspaper. And it is going up top now. So we'll see if we can't get those smaller sticks to start catching. Now I have a nice thin piece here. I'm going to separate this a little bit. Now I have a tiny piece that I can add to the top. Break that again, and I have more kindling. Now what's nice is you can use an accelerant, like a lighter fluid, and just kind of douse the wood with it, and then it will catch much nicer and much easier. But I didn't do that today. I don't always like using lighter fluid. I like it to kind of just catch on its own. And I think that if I start blowing it again, what I've done there at the top, I think that that will be enough, and it will catch, and we will have a fire here shortly. Almost there. All right, now it's going nicely. Wood was a little bit wet from it raining so hard today, but I can tell it's starting to catch on these nice small dry pieces. So without smothering, I'm going to try to add one more small piece, maybe shift some small pieces that are already in the fire. There you go. All right, now all those pieces, I also put them vertically as I laid them on. If they were a big flat piece, I wouldn't want to put them horizontally because that's going to smother the fire. Fire needs oxygen and dry wood in order to work. So as long as you have dry wood and it's a small enough piece so it can catch and you have enough room for the oxygen to flow through, that's going to let the fire start. Now in about 1 to 2 minutes, I'm going to add a couple medium pieces, and that should be enough to keep it going. Let's let that work for a minute. Again, not shifting it too much. I can tell by the fire that's going and the little bit of smoke that it is going, and the fire is starting in there. So I don't want to add or do too much to it right now. Might give it one more blow here. Thank you, Greta. And I will pay me for helping with that. I love the sound of the crackling of the fire. Crackling and popping. One thing I warn you about too is if you're doing this outdoors and you're using rocks that you put around a fire, even if you didn't put the rocks around, even if they were already there and you're near a river, those could be river rocks. And river rocks often have oxygen bubbles that are trapped inside them. And so those rocks can actually explode when exposed to heat. So just make sure if you're making a rock fireplace, meaning rocks surrounding your fire pit, and you're near a river, that those rocks didn't come from the river, that they came from somewhere else, so that you don't have exploding rocks. They will shoot right through your tent and things like that, which can be very, very dangerous and scary. So now that I got the fire going on the kindling, I'm gonna go ahead and just start to add some big pieces, not right over the top. I don't wanna smother it again, but just kind of near the entrance, just so that they can eventually catch on fire too. And we'll just let those go and get the fire started. There you go. And then these 3 pieces, we've got 1 medium and 2 large pieces. Those will be really great to add as soon as this is really going. And this piece, last piece here, is really wet from the weather today, from the rain. If you have a kind of a bunch of sticks in there, it really doesn't matter where the fire starts in the area. As long as it starts in one area, it'll eventually spread to the rest. Or if you have really good dry sticks, you can kind of add them to the area that it wanted to start in. I've been starting fires for a long time. I was a Boy Scout, became an Eagle Scout, and been on a lot of camping trips. And it doesn't happen instantly unless you're using lighter fluid. It takes a little while. This one took, 5, 10, 15 minutes to get started, but it's a nice process. And it's okay that it takes a little bit of time. You just kind of have to stick with it. You don't want to just immediately start it and then leave. What's nice about fires is once they get going, they're going to stay going. And you can't really, it's actually kind of hard to put them out. So you can add bigger pieces of wood. I even add stumps sometimes. You can add wet wood, and it'll still keep going as long as you have those coals that are burning down inside, which we have starting now. I can't even break this. That's embarrassing. It's stronger than you'd think. Cowboys. I'm going to shove a couple more pieces under the grate. It's kind of going, but the wood is not as dry as it should be. So it's not allowing itself to really get going. Add a little more paper. The wood's got to dry in the heat. I mean, most of it was dry. It was under a tarp, but some of it was poking out. See how this gets going. Be careful not to get your hands too close. Obviously, it will burn. Just throwing little dry chips I see nearby. All those will turn into coal. You really gotta stay with the fire as it gets going, making sure it's going, making sure it's not getting snuffed out. Sometimes you do have to add a little bit more paper or whatever, which is okay, or light it one more time. Really what people are after is a nice roaring fire, not necessarily how quickly you made it. They want the result. Now, when it's like this, it's not paper burning anymore. That's now the wood burning. It just took a little bit more to keep it going. You could walk away from this and leave it for 5-10 minutes. So you need to add your medium-sized logs. I'll probably just stick with it. The bellow, it's going to bring in air here and force it out through a certain area. You want to make sure that area is staying very still, because if it's going all over the place, it might even do more harm than good. It's also important not to accidentally put this in too close and suck up fire into it and burn it. This is a 5th piece typically with any fire set. All right, this is the final fire here. About 10 minutes later.
It's so cozy. Make sure you don't burn the camera.
Whoa, that was an amazing fire. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe,